described the judgment of the Court of Appeal as perverse. The allegations of non-accreditation, no conduct of elections or overvoting must be proved with the Beavers voter register from EC8A's from EC4TG, as well as the testimony of the polling unit officers or party agents. The tribunal was right to have affirmed his election as the allegations made by the petitioners were not proven. The decision of the Court of Appeal has no evidential foundation. The Court of Appeal ought not to have overturned the judgment of the tribunal. The order that fresh elections be conducted is set aside. Once again, the Supreme Court has just affirmed the election of Dauda Lawal as the duly elected governor of Zanfara State. We'll bring you up to date as soon as details continue to emerge.
Okay, the next year, please. We want you to react to this judgment because the Supreme Court described the judgment of the Court of Appeal as reversed and as further election implied. How do you react to this?
I mean, there is, I don't know what word we use in the English language to describe the redeeming intervention of the Supreme Court in this judgment, which, as you said, has been described as perverse. The detailed analysis of how the Supreme Court came to the conclusion that the judgment is perverse will be clear when we have copies of the judgment. But for now, as you heard me say in court, but for the Supreme Court, but for the Supreme Court, but for the Supreme Court, gross injustice will have happened in this land.
Okay, sir, how do you think this judgment will go in our jurisprudence? Talking about the cases of voting and non-compliance with the Electoral Act and non-accreditation as alleged by them and the trial court. So what do you say about that?
What the Supreme Court has said today is building on what it rendered in Oyetola's case. It has set out the clear parameters by which those allegations of electoral malpractices ought to be proved. And in this case, that was not proved. So it was strange that the lower court came to the conclusion that the allegation of malpractice was proved in some areas and that a fresh election should be conducted. Thankfully, the Supreme Court has rightly intervened and no other election will be conducted because the governor of Zamfara State, duly elected by the people of Zamfara State, stands to my right.
Thank you very much. Just one question. So this is a victory for you, the party, and people of Zamfara State. So what is the input of the judgment to you and what are Nigerians expecting from you moving forward?
Well, let me start by saying, Alhamdulillah, we thank God for this wonderful judgment. It's actually what I was expecting, so I believe the judiciary are doing very well, and Zamfara people are happy, and we're grateful. We'll now go back, settle down, and do the needful in terms of governance.
So it's for the betterment of Zamfara State. Will you be opening the hand of friendship and inclusive governance to other political parties, irrespective of the differences you've had?
What matters to me as a governor